The crawlspace is breathing, they told me the noises were in my head. I proved them wrong when I brought the head out in a Ziploc bag. It started the night I moved into my grandmother's house after the funeral. Everyone warned me she'd gone senile, said she talked about things living in the walls, claimed the crawlspace under the stairs breathed when no one was watching. They found her stiff in her rocking chair, staring at the hallway like she'd seen something coming for days. I inherited the house because I didn't have anyone left. No siblings. No parents. No job worth clinging to. Just trauma and a key. The first night, I heard scratching. Low, rhythmic, deliberate. Like fingers drumming against wood. I chalked it up to rats. Then I found the claw marks. Not tiny rodent scuffs, these were deep. Parallel grooves raked along the baseboard near the kitchen, low enough that only something crawling on its belly could have made them. Each line was wide. Thick. Like it had claws, or nails. Human nails. I laughed it off. Turned up the music. Got drunk. And that's when I heard the voice. I remember you. It came from under the stairs. The crawlspace. I stood at the door to it, listening. The handle was cold. The kind of cold that felt wet. The kind of cold that carried breath with it. But when I opened it, nothing. Just a short, dusty tunnel of rotting wood. A few old picture frames. A broken porcelain doll with one blue eye and blood-red paint smudged across its mouth like lipstick on a dying clown. I closed the door and tried to forget about it. I didn't know then that it never closed all the way. That night I woke up with scratches down my back. Fresh. Burning. 3 parallel lines like something with too many fingers had tried to peel me open while I slept. And the next night, I found the tooth. Sitting on my pillow. White. Flat. Still warm. Human. Not mine. Not Grandma's. I took it to the police. They said I was sleepwalking. They said I was having a breakdown. They said it was all in my head. So the next time it came, I caught it. I set up a camera, cheap, infrared, motion detecting, the kind you'd use to catch a cheating partner or maybe just a raccoon with a grudge. And aimed it directly at the crawlspace door, the same warped slab of wood beneath the stairs that seemed to swell at night like lungs beneath flesh, flexing with a heartbeat that wasn't mine, exhaling damp air that smelled like spoiled meat and mildew-soaked clothes left to rot in a crawlspace nobody dared clean. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, lights off, listening with headphones plugged into the audio feed, listening for that voice again, that oily rasp that somehow knew my name and whispered it slow like a nursery rhyme turned septic. And at 3:37 a.m., just past the hour where your body begins to give up on hope, I heard it. The faint creak of the door opening on its own, the soft scuff of something dragging itself over splintered wood, not walking, no, but pulling itself along, joint by joint, limb by limb, as if its bones didn't match the human blueprint anymore. The camera feed buzzed, then blinked, then showed nothing. Just static. And the sound of my own breathing, somehow louder than it should have been, like I was breathing in stereo, or something was behind me, matching my inhale for inhale. I turned. The hallway was empty. But when I looked back at the screen, the crawlspace door was wide open, and from inside it something long and thin and pale as moonlight was curled halfway into view. A hand, yes, but not just a hand, fingers longer than knives, bent wrong, trembling with the effort it took just to grip the threshold, twitching as if excited by the feel of air after being buried alive for far too long. I blinked, just once. And the hand was gone. The door slowly closing, not slamming, no. Closing gently. Almost politely. Like it knew I was watching. Like it liked being watched. I replayed the footage again and again, frame by frame, pixel by pixel, but whatever came out of that crawlspace wasn't caught on tape, just the shadow of a movement, the suggestion of mass, the kind of thing you'd ignore if you weren't specifically waiting for the exact second a nightmare decided to manifest on your property. But there was something else, something worse. At the very end of the footage, the moment before the feed cuts to black, a face appeared in the top right corner of the screen, not where the crawlspace was, not where anything should be. My face. Except I wasn't looking at the camera when it was recording. And I wasn't smiling like that. Not with those teeth. That was the night I stopped trying to explain anything to anyone. That was the night I set the trap. I emptied out the crawlspace. Took out the boxes, the ruined Christmas decorations, the dead bugs, the shredded insulation. Lined the back wall with mirrors. Not just any mirrors, antique ones, old and cracked, stuff I found at estate sales and Goodwills, mirrors that had seen more than they should have and hadn't forgotten. I filled the floor with powdered salt. I covered the door frame in nails. And in the center of it all, I placed the tooth, the one it left for me, on a red velvet cloth like an offering. Then I waited. 3 nights. 4. A week. And finally, on the 9th night, I heard it again. Not the scratching. Not the breathing. Not even the voice. The sound of teeth chewing something soft. Something that whimpered. I opened the crawlspace. I was ready to stab. To shoot. To scream. But what I saw, Zoppy, I swear to you, it was wearing me. It crouched inside the crawlspace like a spider that had forgotten how to be a man, all elbows and shoulders and bending parts, hunched over a pile of meat that still had a dog tag, a wedding ring, a child's backpack, and its face, my face, was peeling at the edges like a Halloween mask that had started to rot from the inside, stretching its mouth wider than jawbones allow, filled with rows of human teeth, and on its tongue, it had another me, smaller, curled up like a fetus, screaming, begging, eyes gouged, stitched into place. It saw me. And it smiled. Not to threaten. To welcome. To invite me in. I didn't scream. I wanted to. But something in my throat clamped shut, like fear had learned how to use my muscles better than I could, and the only sound I managed was a soft wheeze, like an animal realizing it stepped into the exact center of the snare, and it's already too late for prayer or pain. The thing with my face didn't move. It just sat there in the crawlspace, elbows bent backward, spine arched like a question mark carved from bone and stringy muscle, the skin of its face flapping slightly at the edges where it didn't quite fit around the skull beneath, a mask stretched too far over features that didn't align with the human blueprint anymore, like it had been stitched together by something that learned anatomy from memory, and got every detail wrong on purpose. The mirrors I lined the walls with, they showed nothing. No reflection of the thing crouched before me. Only me, trembling, wide-eyed, standing at the threshold with a hammer in one hand and a length of chain in the other, breath fogging up from a cold that had nothing to do with temperature. I stepped backward. It tilted its head. Not like it was confused. Like it was curious. Like it was watching its favorite show and the plot had just taken a twist. Then it said something. Its voice was broken, shattered into syllables like teeth cracked on glass, but still carrying just enough familiarity that I could hear my own accent in it. Don't lock it again. I was just learning to be you. I slammed the door. I didn't lock it, though. Not yet. I ran upstairs, grabbed every candle, every mirror, every shred of iron and silver and salt I could find, dug up old books, old rites, called priests who hung up when I started sobbing about something in the crawlspace wearing my face, and through all of it, the whisper never stopped. I heard it through the walls. In the pipes. Under the floorboards. It was everywhere I wasn't looking. Some nights, it would thump once. Just once. A heartbeat. Louder than thunder. Other nights, I'd wake up to find things missing, tiny things at first, my toothbrush, one of my socks, the picture of my mom I kept under my pillow. Then it escalated. I woke up to find my own handprint, but reversed, on the bathroom mirror, inside the mirror. I woke up one morning to find my reflection blinking slower than me. And then, the smell. Like rotting lilies and hot copper and mildew-soaked cotton candy left to ferment in the heat of something that shouldn't be able to dream. I tried to move out. I packed my bags. Got in the car. And when I started the engine, the radio turned itself on. There was no music. Just the sound of chewing. And a voice behind it, in stereo, "You can't leave the body until the body leaves you." I crashed the car 3 blocks down. They said it was fatigue. I said it was the thing in the crawlspace crawling through my skull, inch by inch, learning me like a song, copying my walk, memorizing my breath, peeling off the parts of me it liked best and sewing them into itself. Now it's upstairs. I don't remember opening the door. I don't remember leaving the crawlspace unlocked. But I do remember the smell of my own blood, because when I woke up this morning, there were bite marks on my legs. Not deep. Just enough to sample. Just enough to taste. And carved into the mirror in the hallway, with something sharp and greasy and warm, were 5 words, "It's my turn to sleep." I don't remember falling asleep last night. But I woke up with my mouth filled with dirt. Not just any dirt, the kind that's been soaking in something long dead, sticky and sweet, thick with decay, as if a body had dissolved in it and left its soul behind to fester, and I could taste it on the roof of my mouth, down my throat, buried beneath my nails. My bed sheets were wet, slicked with a red-black smear that looked like blood but smelled like sap, like it had been pulled from a tree that once grew in a cemetery and fed on the marrow of forgotten children. The closet door was open. I never leave the closet door open. I live alone. I've lived alone since 2019. And yet, there was a dent in the pillow next to mine, still warm, still shaped like a head that wasn't mine. And on the mirror across the room, scrawled in condensation despite no heat or steam, were the words, "You dream loud." The closet was empty. Of course it was. But the air inside was wrong, thicker, like walking into a room where someone had died alone and wasn't found for weeks, but that death hadn't been enough to make them leave. I spent the morning trying to track the sound that kept playing under everything. Beneath the hum of the refrigerator, beneath the wind outside, even beneath my own breathing. It was a tape, an old cassette reel, playing on loop somewhere behind the drywall, low and warped and buried, repeating the same 3-second snippet over and over again. Say it again. Say it like you mean it. Say it again. Say it, like someone begging for recognition. Or like someone learning how to imitate. I pulled the drywall down with a crowbar. Behind it wasn't insulation. Wasn't brick. Wasn't foundation. Just a long, narrow, flesh-colored tunnel stretching into black, lined with wood that pulsed like gums, wet with saliva or blood, and on the floor of it, dozens of things. Clothes. Wallets. Eyeglasses. Teeth. Journals. Photographs. All of them mine. Some old. Some newer. Some I hadn't taken yet. I stepped inside before I could think better. The walls made a wet sound when I touched them, and the air in there wasn't air, not really. It was closer to breath, something hot and rancid and full of intention, like whatever lived inside the passage wanted me deeper, wanted me to lose my way on purpose, so it could pick me apart like a butcher with a scalpel instead of a cleaver. I crawled for what felt like hours. The tunnel kept changing shape behind me. Widening. Shrinking. Flexing like lungs mid-panic attack. I felt fingers brush my ankles, but when I turned, I was alone. Until I wasn't. There was a mirror up ahead. Just one. Leaning against the wall like it had always been there, surrounded by teeth embedded into the wood around it like some unholy frame. And in the mirror, I saw me. But I wasn't crawling. I was standing behind myself, smiling with a grin that stretched just a little too far. I turned. No one there. But the smell hit me like a body bag full of rotting skin cream and spoiled breath, and then something whispered in my ear, something warm and wet and identical to my voice. Let me do the waking up now. I ran. I don't remember getting back out. I don't remember crawling through my living room or vomiting up hair that wasn't mine or finding the back of my own hand branded with a spiral of bite marks, small, too small to be adult, too numerous to be accidental. But when I looked up, the crawlspace door was open again. And I was standing inside it. Smiling. Naked. Dripping. Holding a tape recorder in one hand. And in the other, my face. Peeling. Red. Still twitching around the mouth. It raised it like a mask, like it was about to put it on. And the last thing I saw before I passed out was the reflection of both of us, me and the other me, becoming one in the mirror. Seamless. Sick. Smiling. I don't think I've been me for days. Not really. I still look like me, same face, same stubble, same eyes, but they feel looser now, like my skin is just a costume zipped up over something wetter, something that remembers crawling before it ever stood. When I woke up after the mirror, I was lying in the backyard. Naked. Cold. Covered in scratches that looked like letters if you stared long enough. Letters that spelled nothing I could read in any language I know. But I could understand them anyway. The crawlspace door was open again. Wide open. And now it wheezed, like something on the other side of it was just barely alive, lungs flooded, tongue swollen, breath sticky with hunger, but not quite dead enough to stop calling. I boarded it up. I nailed it shut. I sprayed salt and vinegar and rusted iron all over the seams, drew sigils from books I found beneath my old neighbor's floorboards after he burned himself alive last spring. But the breathing didn't stop. And at night, I hear the tape playing under my bed. The same voice. My voice. You're sleeping in my skin now. How does it feel to wear me? Do they know it's you in there? Do you? Sometimes it laughs. And it always sounds just a little more human than I remember being. Last night I pulled another tooth from my mouth. Not because it was loose. Because it didn't belong to me. The root was too long. Curled like a worm. Still wriggling. I left it in the sink. It crawled away before morning. And then, my neighbor's dog started barking again. The same one that had been missing for weeks. I looked outside. It wasn't barking at my house. It was barking at me, through the window. And its tail was between its legs, piss soaking its fur, whimpering through snarls. It saw something I didn't. I ran to the mirror. And I saw myself. But the eye on the left didn't blink. I pressed my fingers against the glass. And my reflection didn't move. Just stared. And smiled. And whispered, "It's my turn to be afraid now." That's when I knew. I got out. But it came with me. It's in me now. And sometimes, I black out for hours, only to wake up with blood on my sleeves, dirt under my fingernails, and old cassette reels in my pockets. Recordings of laughter. Recordings of breathing. Once, a voice I didn't recognize whispered my own address on the tape. And then said, "Next one soon." Last night I woke up with scratches on my thighs. Not deep. Not painful. But deliberate. Tally marks. 10. I don't remember what I did. But I know what I became. I feel it in my jaw when it unhinges in my sleep. I feel it in my spine when it cracks wrong during yawns. I hear it in the crawlspace when I walk past and it whispers, "Good job, brother." I'm still hungry. So here it is. This is the warning. I got out. But it followed me. And it's learning. Faster. Better. Smarter. And if you ever wake up, with dirt in your mouth, with a mirror that doesn't match your face, With the sudden urge to chew when you're not eating anything, then you need to remember, it wears you to sleep. And you'll never hear it coming.